Class exercise, identify camera features. So in this class exercise, you are going to do a little bit of exploration on your tool of choice for this course, whether you're using an SLR, a point and shoot, or your mobile device. So you're going to complete this worksheet. You're going to complete it by explaining how to find and use the following listed controls or settings on your camera. I would suggest that you complete each section with your personal notes. If you find that your camera does not offer a specific control or setting, state that. State that your camera is not capable, along with the ways that you may need to work around those controls. You might want to reference your camera's manual, which most manuals are online, or just the general internet searches for more information regarding your specific camera model. So to start with, I want you to list your camera make and model. I want you to list the ISO ranges. Remember, a low ISO number, like around 100, is not very sensitive to light, and it is the best for shots in good lighting conditions. A higher ISO range means that the camera will be suitable for photography in darker conditions. So I would assume that you have an ISO, around 100 to 400, and that should be adequate for the needs of this course. Some of you may have a much, much higher ISO. Digital zoom. So optical zoom uses the physical lens inside the camera to enlarge a scene. Digital zoom electronically enlarges the pixels in the center area of that photo, meaning that anytime you use the digital zoom function on your camera, you're actually sacrificing the quality of your photos. So it's a very good idea to disable the digital zoom function altogether and just stop from using this. So see if you have a digital zoom option and then see if you can turn that off. Focal length. Remember, focal length refers to how much of the lens of a camera, can magnify a shot. So focal lengths are generally split into two categories, being wide angle and telephoto. So, you think of which ones are better for, spacious and narrow fields of view. So wide angle focal length is better for most of the time, and 22 millimeter, 35 millimeter varieties really is what most people are using. So see if you can identify what your focal length is. If you're using a DSLR, you might want to list all of your capabilities if you have other lenses available. Megapixel. Remember, this refers to the maximum resolution that your digital camera can take, and it's in millions of pixels. So a camera with a range of 4 megapixels can take photos that can contain a maximum of 4 million pixels. The higher the megapixel count means the better quality of photos. So I want you to see what range you have or what your camera can do. And so you want to try to have a camera that has at least a 3 megapixel range or above. And this would be, more important the higher you go if your intention is to print large format photos. You will be surprised that some of your mobile devices, your phones, will have a very high megapixel. The aperture and f-stop, remember this is that small opening that allows light to pass through the lens. The larger the aperture, of course, lets more light through. And we call the aperture settings by f-stops. That's how we describe the size of the aperture. Now, some of you will have control and specific abilities to set your aperture or set your f-stops. Others of you will not. So I want you to explore a little bit and figure out, well, if I can't change my aperture and f-stop, I might have these other settings that really is controlling how much light passes through the digital camera. Shutter speed. Again, shutter speed tells us how long that shutter remains open to allow light to pass through the aperture. Of course, a faster shutter speed is very quick, and it allows photos of quick moving photos. It snaps that action. So again, a lot of you might not have specific shutter speed control, but you might have settings such as action photo or landscape photo. So again, you may have to do a little research, think about what we've talked about so far, and figure out what setting on my camera do I think I can control that shutter speed. And then white balance. Digital cameras adjust to that color temperatures of the environments and the light sources. So can you control the color temperature? Some of you will be able to complete all of these. You'll have the ability in your camera to change or adjust these settings. Others of you will not. So I want you to look for each one of these. If your camera doesn't have this capability or you're not aware of it, don't just leave it blank. I want you to still write a note in here on what your camera has, what it doesn't have, what you think you might be able to use in order to control the specific setting. So there are two ways you can submit this project. You could print this, handwrite on it, make sure it's legible, and then scan it or take a nice photo of it and submit it in the Dropbox. You may have Acrobat capabilities to take this PDF and actually type on it. So either way is fine as long as it ends up in the Dropbox.